what kind of world do you believe these individuals envision for themselves at the end of all these crises? Because, when you and I strive for something, you want to have some position, I want to have some position or achieve some goal, it doesn't matter what it is, right? I can imagine the plateau. It's a climb, and I get to the plateau. And I want to ride that plateau for a while. It's not going to be an endless climb, rather. I want to know what that plateau looks like to these people. Do you think that it's basically they're going to be sitting around in a very small room, smoking cigars and having nice sherry while the plebes are starving outside? I mean, what world do you believe that they envision for themselves? So forget about the other people. For themselves, what do they want?
That's actually not difficult to guess. They want a perfectly consistent and plannable economy with no booms, no busts, never economic bubbles. Everything is perfectly forecastable so that they can generate steady growth that's positive growth that they mop up most of the profits off of, overwhelming proportion of the profits off of. But there's never the big boom, never the big bust. Well, no, there were still housing bubbles and other market bubbles where the economy has an up and down instead of just a smooth monotonic increase in value that they skim large percentages off of. So they, I think, envision a world, and I think this because they say this, that where you can get ahead of the possibility of these, Klaus Schwab talks about the acceleration of technology in the world and the way that it will destabilize things like economies and populations so that things will happen less and less predictably. You read papers, for example, there's a paper about social and emotional learning in schools written by Ben Williamson in 2019, and they say that the point of social and emotional learning is to gather reams and, just volumes, terabytes, yottabytes or whatever of psychodata on children and on people, so that, and they say for instruments of social control and economic forecasting, the goal is to have a completely forecastable economy where they decide who are the big winners are going to be, and those people reap constantly a steady harvest off of.
But what you're talking about
else.
is that they want a static world, and that's a dead world.
Well, they call it a circular world, a circular economy, where you have a relatively small, maybe it's relatively small population, but it's a relatively small economy where its outputs become the inputs for the next stage, that everything stays perfectly sustainable. And you have they don't want to end growth. They want perfectly sustainable growth that can't possibly outpace what they think that the carrying capacity of the environment can maintain, while they, again, mop up the profits. If you think that who's driving this primarily, well, it's long-term investors, it's pension fund managers, it's index fund managers who are looking at 30, 50-year investments. What's their model of how they think about the world? Well, how do we ensure that this thing over the course of 50 years continues to gain value at a predictable pace? So what they want is a completely predictable world where there's no huge booms and busts, a bust obviously creates massive social unrest that might depose them from their positions of power. People might blame them for the busts and kick them out or imprison them for their crimes where they've committed them. They want none of that. They want a completely smooth and sustainable world where profit is generated. They mop up most of the profit, but it's completely predictable, completely bland like oatmeal otherwise, and everybody can be quote unquote happy and content in that world. It's not exactly the vision that Karl Marx lays out for communism, but it's very similar. It's that everything just kind of works and it just kind of keeps working and everybody gets to reap. And then for them, everybody is the people like themselves. They get to reap what's going on. No, though I said it's not like Karl Marx because they believe that they are the rightful inheritors of that wealth and that value because they're the ones architecting the world that's going to be the flawless, imperturbable world, no volatility whatsoever. So they want a minimally volatile economic and social circumstance. that they're in control of and can profit off of, like a long-term investment. They can guess that it's going to have 11% or 8% or whatever growth per year. That's going to be, overwhelmingly their share.
Static.
And so I don't think they intend that the majority of people are going to starve. I think that they intend that the majority of people are going to be managed like zoo animals. They have their lot, their small little thing in a smart city. They get to have their little meaningless lives and play on the computer and live in the metaverse and order food from, drone delivered Uber Eats and carry on in whatever capacity, and everybody will be happy enough. I actually think that they think that they're going to, be the grand producers of everything, and that they're going to be in a perfectly stable circumstance. And these smart cities are going to just kind of manage people as though they're in zoos. And what the number of those people are, that can be planned according to the sustainability needs. So you can ratchet up or down the fertility rates, and within a generation, you have a pretty good control on how many people there are, what the cities can contain, et cetera. So you look at Neom, for example, and that's what you're looking at.
Did you see that video of that city that was like a line or the?
Yeah, that's Neom.
Wall?
That's Neom. Neom is the experience. NEOM. Neom. And Saudi Arabia is building it, and the line.
They're building this shit. They're
literally building this. They're literally building it. And part of the reason that they're probably hollowing out these cities in the U.S.
It's going to be like council housing. What do you call it? Inner city housing. What's the name of it? The projects. But the projects, no exterior. It's going to be like a fucking prison, man. I mean,
yes.
I didn't realize that they were building this shit.
Yeah. And imagine if you just wanted to get people to move into those cities, and so you made life in the existing cities absolutely hell to drive them to where they want to live somewhere else. And you say, hey, look, here's this perfect place you can go live instead. Imagine if they ruined life in cities by making them really violent and shoplifting and pooping and peeing all over the place and putting these ridiculous... imagine if they did that.
You think that this is all part of the plan?
Yes.
I suppose that my own thinking is that, conspiracies never seem to work out, okay? Somebody always slips up. Somebody always talks, okay? But you're of the opinion that this is a grand conspiracy it's out in the open. So, you could basically say that it is a conspiracy, but they're making no bones about it. They're not trying to be quiet about it. On the contrary, they're saying that what a wonderful thing it is. I mean, nobody, that ad that I saw for that stupid walled city, whatever, the Neom, right? They were obviously very proud of this idiotic idea, as far as I'm concerned. So you're of the opinion that it is a conspiracy, but it's out in the open. And they want everybody to know about the conspiracy and everybody get on board with their conspiracy. Is that?
Yeah, more or less. I mean,
that's what you
sort
think?
of that's what the book, The Open Conspiracy, is about. So, yes. I think that they think people won't think that it's nefarious if it's out in the open and if they're bragging about it and carrying on about it. That it's just people trying to, and this is how the World Economic Forum, for example, bills itself, is it's looking 10 years down the road at the biggest technological and sociological challenges and economic challenges, and is trying to figure out ways to solve those problems before they become overwhelming problems or catastrophic problems. And therefore, it just turns out that all their solutions are give us more power every time, and then we'll manage it for you. So I do think that that's broadly speaking what's going on. I also do think that it's going to slip, but we also are just now entering the point where the pressure is high enough where people are starting to feel the risk and starting to sweat. There have been, of course, mass CEO exoduses over the last couple of years. Those are probably very suspicious. But I think we're starting to see the point, Elon Musk kind of rattles their cage a little bit. Now Jeff Bezos is acting weird, kind of on the back of that. Well, he's kind of like denouncing some aspects of whatever they think they're going to do. And it's almost like he's going a little rogue. Sometimes he's agreeing openly with Musk, where they obviously are very upset with Musk because they downgraded Tesla out of ESG land, even though it's obviously like the most ESG company ever. So
I kind of
What
despise
I d-
Tesla, but anyway, that's.
I
I know they're
we're
scam. They're arbitraging the regulatory framework.
we're watching world leaders like Boris Johnson have to be replaced because they're not going along with it the way that they need to go along with it. And we're kind of seeing this happen in country after country. We're seeing countries like, Italy kind of bucking this. I just saw something about an attempted Italy-exit or something like this. They're calling it as a Brexit for Italy.
What's going on is Mario Draghi is exiting the position because it's some bullshit local political crap. Something that's very standard in Italian politics. I don't know the ins and outs. I don't really care. But apparently he's using it as an excuse to hit the eject button because he knows what's coming and he doesn't want to deal with it or be blamed for it. He wants to leave.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Space. So, yeah. Because they know that pressure is coming down.
That's right. The pressure of this might not work. And if it doesn't, the people in charge are going to get all the blowback, is going to start squeezing people out. And people will probably start talking.